So, thanks for joining. I'll just touch on a few points as we go through. Today's section will be more geared towards a practical experience, how to set up Odoo, and then provision that for our inventory management, track and expiry of drugs. And then, so the whole concept of this is to have a very basic setup in that sense, and then how to manage our pharmacy in terms of how we sell. For those of us who have multiple branches, I would quickly touch on how activities from those branches can be handled in that sense. And then we'll also try and touch a bit, as I usually do, on some of the common pay points that we're faced with respect to managing our pharmacies. So, just as I would like to introduce the team that is back in for today, I reiterated the point that it will be good to put in any questions that you have, and we'll be glad to respond to these questions at that Q&A session. So before I delve into our demo session, or the practical bit where we see things live, I would want to touch on the common pain points that we have as pharmacy operators or over the counter drug dispensers. Common pain points would be that we've got to meet the Pharmacy Council's and FDA regulations. In that sense, we would also have to track inventory as well, and then we would track expiry of our medication, which is very, very key. We want to also track our lot and serial numbers for traceability, and then would see how we're able to deal with expiry management, where maybe we can, in terms of our logistics or moving of the drugs, we'll look at our first expiry, first out, so that we do not have expired drugs sitting on our shelves. And then how we can also avoid stockouts of very essential medications as well, and would also manage potential pilferage whilst managing pharmacy. So we would all admit that the inventory management component of managing our pharmacy goes in depth. There are a lot of hurdles to cross. On top of that, most of us still do manual bookkeeping. It's either we're writing in notebooks or we have a spreadsheet or Excel where we do this, which is time consuming and leads to a lot of errors. And the reason for this is to modernize our entire pharmacy operations. So what Odoo is going to help us do now is to improve patient safety by avoiding expired drugs, which we all attest to that is very dangerous if we have to be passing on expired drugs to people in our pharmacy. It's something that we'll have to do away with, and the solution in terms of how it's built can help us achieve this. And then enhance operational efficiency in terms of, one, how we can quickly reorder essential drugs and we ensure that they are not out of stock on our shelves. And then in terms of locating the drugs, so drugs can be categorized into different types, and then they can be organized in that sense, and our attendants would know exactly where to go pick these particular drugs as well. And then we intend would reduce financial losses from expired stock, so that we don't have too much expired stock. And I spoke about the point of you having first expiry, first out. In that sense, we do not have expired drugs sitting in our pharmacy. And then would also simplify reporting, and then have insights into making better purchasing decisions. So once we're going to buy our stocks, we know the products that move a lot off our shelves, and then we can basically deal with that. So before I proceed, in a nutshell, we're going to look at our basic configuration. We're going to look at our a product setup, which is very key, where we would tell the system that we want to track either the serial or lot numbers and also track expiry of these drugs. We'll look at our inventory management, and then we'll run the POS to basically run our sales process and see how the system handles this. And that will obviously be in the live demo where we would want to see the Odoo POS in action. After that, we'll allow for Q&A, and you can ask questions that you want answered on this webinar. So yes, introducing myself for those who have joined today. My name is Bernard. I work with CONAK Technology. Ably assisting me on this webinar today is Francis Aqua. He is the head of our marketing and digital media service. And as well, he'll be monitoring the Q&A session for your specific questions as well. And we'll be glad to answer that. So would introduce Odoo to you. For those of us who have not researched or heard about Odoo, it's a modern day business application suite. Some of us will call it as an enterprise resource planning tool, but I love to call it as a business solution, which has a one-stop shop for all of your business application needs. It gives you complete business management solution. It is very modular. So what it literally means is for a small business, you can grow with this. So if you have a staff of 2, or you have a business that have over 1,000 employees, Odoo is your right bet in terms of managing the activities of your business. And then it also enables you to connect your front of house to your back office. So this would be selling to customers and then doing all of the analytics and reporting and keeping records of activities that go on in the back office as well. It is cloud-based, meaning that you do not need to incur extra costs buying servers, installing it, getting experts to man the servers for you in a sense. Odoo has a very perfect setup cloud environment called the Odoo SH and on Odoo Online, which allows you to access the solution anywhere you find yourself. And all you would require would be your internet connection to access your application. It is affordable and scalable. So for us in Ghana, this is currently the most affordable solution that you have on the market, and very scalable. And compared to the rest, I don't think they're anywhere close to the match of Odoo in terms of the applications that manage your business right out of the box, and then the pricing that you get for this simple but very sophisticated solution called Odoo. Right, so we have seen what Odoo is. Today our main focus, as I said, would be on our dispensing of drugs and then our inventory management in Odoo. Critical points for discussion today would be our inventory management, lot and expiry date tracking. Would also see how Odoo can also handle barcode scanning as part of your operations whilst you're selling, and even when you're receiving stock into your various shops. So without wasting much time, I'm going to quickly delve into our demo section. And for those of us following us today, you can tag along as I move on in demonstrating how Odoo can help our pharmacy. So there are a couple of other things out of the way that I'll touch as we move along, which is in line with our Ghanaian setup in that sense. And so once we get there, I would quickly just highlight that, and I would love for most of us to also pay attention to some of this, because that we get a lot of this frequently asked questions, most of it around how we would handle our taxes and so on. In the meantime, I have a very clean environment, just as we do in our webinar section. I don't want to have too much data in, so I love to build from the ground up so that you can follow the process to the latter, and then also show you the capabilities of Odoo if you have to add on to this basic demo that we're showing you. And I hope this section will be very intuitive. Let's just get going. So quickly, I have my environment where you can see a clean Odoo database. The first thing I've done is just to set up the company name without installing anything. So I have called it CONAK Pharmacy. In this case, it would be your pharmacy. And a quick touch point, if you have branches to also manage, once you have that pharmacy and you have quite a number of branches, you can also manage all of your branches from Odoo as well. So once you get into your settings and you go under manage companies, you can open up your parent company and then have the required branches that will go along with it. So by default, this would have us get some visibility in terms of the financial entries from our various branches. It could be your expense, and then it could also track the sales or receivables that we've gotten from this pharmacy. So without boring you with a lot of talk, we're going to jump into our apps. And there are a few things that I want to show here. Over here, Odoo gives us about 76 core modules of applications that can effectively manage each business operation. So whether you want a CRM to manage your sales team, your sales pipeline, your leads, the system can help you with that. Last week we looked at how we can efficiently manage our restaurant, and then we had the interface that allows us to do restaurant management from point of sale. We can manage our inventory, accounting, and what also happens is that you have over 1,000 individual modules that compensate these big models that I've spoken about, or apps. So in Odoo, natively we call them apps, but the models will come together to form the app. And you have about 1,300 of them, from localization to other ones that feed into your accounting or the native apps. Plus, you can also push your own custom models into Odoo as well. And then Odoo also has industry-specific applications, which we're also going to look at. So if you are in the IT hardware and support sector or industry, you would activate this, and then it bundles all of the apps that are required to operate your IT hardware and support business effectively. So we see that we have real estate, construction, pharmacy, software reselling. You have a restaurant for fine and dining. We have hardware store, non-profit organization, automobile spare parts, electronics stores. It goes on and on. So you have this tailor-made solutions for your specific industry that basically helps you achieve that operational efficiency whilst utilizing Odoo. So you can also play along with this, but today our focus would be on how we effectively manage our pharmacy from Odoo. So I'm quickly going to install our pharmacy bit. It is going to ask me I have the option of loading a demo data to quickly fast track our demo today. I would load a bit of demo data, but we're going to also create some of these activities so that you have a step-by-step approach into effectively creating your products and managing them quite well within Odoo as well. So I just click on this and do a quick install, and then I would make a few tweaks here and there to suit our Ghanaian condition, because we have a lot of attendees on this webinar, mostly from Ghana. So we'll just give a sec. It takes a bit of time because it needs to combine native apps and models to effectively run our pharmacy. And so we're going to see invoicing installed, we're going to have our POS installed, we're going to also have our inventory installed so that we can efficiently manage all of these sectors within our pharmacy operations as well. So whilst we wait for a pharmacy bit to complete, I would encourage that you put in your questions in the live section, and Francis would pick that up and we'll be glad to answer it. Okay, it looks like we're almost done with our installation. Just quickly waiting for that. Okay, so our hefty installation is almost done. I'm just going to jump into it quickly. Let me refresh. Right, so we have pharmacy interface, just as I illustrated earlier. We would have our point of sale, invoicing, purchases, inventory, barcode, and then a BI, which I would also touch on, business intelligence dashboard that also helps guide us into the sort of performance of our organization. The next step would be certain standard models that are inevitable within Odoo, our contacts, just to manage every contact within the system. And because we operate a pharmacy, it would be very good to also share knowledge with our staff. It could be the cashiers or the pharmacist at every branch. And we can have a knowledge repository where they can basically go and then research into some requirements for our clients. Calendar would also help us pin dates in that sense from our operational standpoint, and then would have discussed that would enable us collaborate with our fellow colleagues within the same institution. So yes, let's quickly just get on this. For my demo section today, I'll start off by first of all looking at some core configuration outlines that we need to align this to. And because our main focus is on Ghana today, we'll have to ensure that it complies with most of the statutory requirements that we have in Ghana. I must also put this that out of the box within Odoo, we do not have localization natively for Ghana yet, and that's what is informing the sort of tweaks that I'll do, especially to our finance section. So I'm going to say the fiscal country here is Ghana, because by default, since there's no localization, Odoo would resort to the generic financial model that he has, which is more aligned to the US. And so we would have to manually tell the system that we're based here in Ghana and fine-tune this. In rare cases, you might require exchange rate, automatic exchange rates. But for the purposes of our pharmacy, because it is localized in Ghana, I'm going to leave this, and our concentration would be more on the Ghana cedis. There are a few other interesting bits that you're going to get from the setup section. It could be how you would want to treat your customer addresses on your various invoices, and if you would like to also issue sales receipts or set credit lines, system can allow us to do so. Another key element would be the unit of measure. If we have different unit of measure for different drugs, which usually happens in our case, instead of selling the entire box, you would want to maybe take out strips, and for some medications, we even sell them by individual tablets. So we can customize the unit of measure to also mimic how we do our day-to-day operations within the pharmacy space as well. So I'm also going to check our unit of measure so that once we get there, we'll see how this goes a long way to help us. So I'll save this. Now, with going with that pharmacy industry, what it does is it only installs invoicing model for Odoo. It does not give us a fully fledged accounting model. But for the bigger pharmacies, you can just simply go into applications, and then you can commission that full accounting model on top of your invoicing. So we can just also activate accounting like so, and it won't change the setup that we do, but you would have other accounting components installed on top of our invoicing as well. So for those who would want to see in-depth financial reports, this is going to help you do so. So we see that our invoicing is off our screen now, has been replaced with our accounting, and this gives us a broad perspective as to what we can see. I've done this because for most of the pharmacy, you operate quite a number of chain of shops, and so at the head office, you would want to track things from your bank, bills you have to pay in that sense. And some of you would also go ahead and do wholesaling, so you would want to see customer invoices as part of your operations, whilst you also have your own pharmacy outlets that do the retailing of your products as well. So once we have that set up, my next bit, which is very, very critical, would be a tax setup. I'm going to use our VAT flat rate because for most of the smaller pharmacies, you will have a flat rate of, I think, 4% on our VAT. And for the purposes of this, I'm going to maintain that. I'd also have to tell you that Odoo has a very efficient tax engine that allows you to set up your various tax rates. So I would say VAT 4% flat rate, 4% I would say, and then we change our value here to 4%, and then we can change our tax group. I'm going to modify this quickly. We're in the country Ghana. Also take note, once you change the fiscal country to Ghana, your taxes would also have to comply as such, or else you're not going to have your tax work efficiently. It will throw errors. And so I'm going to create a tax group called VAT 4% as well. I'll create and edit this and set my tax payable account. And then I would also text my tax receivable account. Yeah, and I would save and close this. Now, bear in mind, once the tax environment is organized such that you can do computations based on a fixed amount, percentage, or percentage of tax included. We're using the percentage, and then ensure that your tax types are set correctly. So either this, for instance, is a sales tax. It means anytime we're selling, this tax will be triggered. but you can also have a different set of tax for your purchases as well. So if you're going to do purchase tax, you can also do the same. So we'll have this saved, and then I'm going to do the same for my purchase tax. I'm going to maintain the same VAT flat rate of 4%, and then I'll put that in there, and I'm going to change the country so that we can choose the respective tax group. In that sense, I'll maintain our tax 4%, and go back to our settings and ensure that we have our default tax set up for creating our various products. For those who do the 17.5%, you can set up the individual taxes and then create a group of tax that would basically put all of this tax into one group, and you can set that group as your default, and each time you select a product, all the subsequent taxes would be listed as part of it. So yes, we have our tax table set up. I can go into our settings for another critical thing I would like to touch on, and that would be how you set the default taxes, and then you determine whether the prices are included or excluded in that sense, and this is very critical. So if we say excluded, it means that each time you give the system a price, it has to calculate the tax as an extra add-on to the price. And when we say included, it means that it's a component of the price that we've given to it. So for example, if we said a product is 100 cedis and it is tax included, it means our tax is part of the 100 cedis, which literally means that a product maybe would cost about 96 or something cedis, and then you have an extra percentage of the tax on. But if we say tax exclusive, then you would have 100 cedis, and then you would need to calculate the extra 4% tax as part of it. And whilst we're creating our products, we're also going to see that as well. Now, there's another thing I would like to set up, is that we always at all times want to know the sort of inventory value that we have at hand. And I'm going to prep the system to take consideration of that. So I'm going to turn on automatic accounting so that for all products that we create, it is easy for the system to auto track the value of the inventory, either from our purchase order or the cost that we've set on each product, and then it's able to give us total valuation of the number of products that we have sitting in our stores or warehouse, right? For the bank statement, I'm only going to maintain comma separated values and spreadsheet format as part of this, and then our fiscal year ends 31st December. That for the accountants who are also on, you might also want to explore the budget management and accounting, which is not part of this webinar yet, but it will be an interesting feature for you to consider moving forward. So I'll save this, and then we can quickly just delve into our product creation and see how we can go about managing this. So for starters, we have assessed our basic configuration. I think our next configuration before we start inputting stuff would be to look at our inventory and how we want to look at this. So I'm using a very basic setup. You can also have SMS confirmation in terms of your delivery, but I might say you need to pay for this service. It's not free. It's a service that Odoo offers. And if you want the system to be sending you SMS, you can sign up to the Odoo AIP service, and then subscribe and buy your credits, and you should be able to get SMS notifications in that regard. Also, we want to track the lots and serial numbers, and then the expiry date of this, which is very, very critical in that sense. So this is required. For those that deal with imported drugs, you, in terms of your accounting scope, you would want to have landed cost that affects the total cost of your item. But that is not for discussion today, so I would leave this for our next webinar. And I think we'll have a focus on how to handle landed cost effectively within Odoo in the months to come. Then we can also decide on how we want to manage our warehouse. For bigger operations, you want to break this into multiple storage locations, and then you can actually sell from there. For the purposes of this webinar, we're not going into details with regards to our warehouse management, but during our series, we're going to see this in the weeks and months to come ahead of us on how to effectively deal with storage locations within our warehouse and having multiple step routes of how we can either receive items or do delivery of items as well. Right. So with our basic setup done, especially around accounting and inventory, I'll jump to how we would want to also handle point of sale. So our point of sale, we're going to create a brand new shop, and I would call this particular shop, hold on a second, I'll call this shop CONAK Pharmacy Branch 1. And then I'll save this. And then there are a couple of setup that I can put in. One will be the various payment methods that I have. So I can record card payments, I can record cash payments, and further to enhance this, CONAK Technology can also give you integration into Momo and your bank. In that sense, if you want to receive Momo payments directly into your various bank accounts. And for our POS, we can have the option of having our employees log in by actually setting pins for them, and each employee or cashier that would have basically would have their own unique pin in that sense. Then we can have access to active orders in that sense from the various POS, but I'm going to leave that. We're looking at the very basic setup. And if we are using our touch screen hardware for our point of sale, we can have large scroll bars that allows us to effectively use the touch screen on our POS interface. We can restrict certain categories, and we'll look at the POS categories once we get into our product creation stage as well. And then we can sort our carts by categories as well. And if we want to show margins and cost on our products, we can do the same in that sense. Here we can have our default tax, so you realize that our 4% tax is in here. And then we can also tell the system to track order edits in the back end as well if we want to. And we have a specific journal. So one thing you have to note is that in Odoo, all of the financial transactions that we write into our various accounts in the chart of accounts is done through our journals. So to pass all of those entries, we would have specific journals for that. If you have multiple branches, you can create journals for each of those branches so that in terms of drilling down in your reporting, you can categorize them by the various journals that are linked to your branches. And then we can have various sales teams as well. It can be done as per branch for those who operate multiple branches, or for those who just have a particular shop, you can also break it into those who probably come in the morning, and for those that also work in the evening. For this, I'm going to tie it to our point of sale team, and then we'll look at how our business intelligence dashboard can tell us the performance of this team. You can also have very flexible price lists with Odoo. So you can determine that you have multiple price lists and then determine the sort of situation for price lists. So if you have multiple POSs set up, you can decide that a particular location might have a price list that is different from another location as well. And then you can also decide that you have price list for some category of customers and price list for others as well. So you have that flexibility of dealing with the price list engine, which is very, very sophisticated. And then for our various cashiers, we can restrict them from price change and allocate this to only managers in that sense. The system allows you to have promotions and loyalty card programs as well. So for customers that are your loyal customers, you can have some discounts, or if you're running some promotion, it could be buy a particular medication and get one free. All of that comes inbuilt as part of Odoo as well. Then we can customize the header on our receipts. We can see that. So we can just say CONAK Pharmacy, and then we can say Lagos Avenue, New East Legon, Accra, Ghana. And then on the footer, we can put our return policy, and then this I'll just say thanks for shopping with us. And then we can put that in as well. So you can also enable SMS, as I said, but I told you this is a paid for service as well. And then we can turn on automatic receipt printing. You can also turn on your self-service invoicing as well. Then for Urban Piper, it doesn't work in our region. For payment terminals that also do not work in our country, I'm just going to skip that. But if you still want to connect a payment terminal to this, you can contact CONAK. We'll be glad to do those integrations for you, and you should be able to utilize your various payment terminals with this. Now, if you had a networked EPOS printer within the shops, you can also turn them on so that receipts are printed from there. You can also have an IoT box connected to Odoo as well. Odoo has its custom IoT box, or you can use the virtual IoT box, which is a software version of it installed on your computer, and then we can connect stuff like our cash drawer, our scanners and all of that to the system to effectively utilize that as well. And then you can have, for those that have point of sales that have a customer facing screen, you can also activate that as well to another screen, or you can also connect it to your IoT if the screen is actually detached from your point of sale. Right. A preparation display, we cannot, that helps our customers see that their products are being prepared and they're brought in terms of their order counters. Last week when we looked at restaurant bid, we also saw how a kitchen preparation works with the customer preparation display. In this case, it would be good customer service to have that preparation display, especially for the very busy pharmacies, so that the customer can look at their order numbers and know when that particular order is ready for them to pick it up at the counter. So that will be it for setup, basic setup with respect to pharmacy. I'm also going to quickly show the customer display. I'll say it's on the same device, and we'll see how I'll open it in a different tab so we see how that plays out. Right. So with our basic setup done, there are a few things that we're going to delve into now. The first would be knowing how to create our products effectively in Odoo, which is very, very critical, and then how we can also ensure that we have our lots and serial numbers effectively set up within Odoo. So I'll quickly just go into point of sale Also, depending on your assets, right, you can assess your product form from whether sales. Because I'm the admin of this, I can see the products anywhere I am. But usually, because we keep it under inventory, I personally love to do this from inventory. So I'm so sure that all of the required parameters that I need for this are captured effectively. So I'm going to add a new product. And for this product, I'm going to use maybe a common medication called paracetamol tabs. Or let's use this amoxicillin syrup. And I would use that. And we're going to say this is a point of sale, and I'll explain all of this tab. We basically sell this. We also purchase this from our vendors, and we would also be selling this on a POS. There might be some drugs that you don't want available whilst you're selling on a POS. And a typical example would be that you have unique drugs that maybe you do only wholesale sales, and that can be handled by the sales app. And then you can also have unique drugs that you only handle through the point of sale. The system gives you that flexibility to decide whether you want a particular drug to show up in your point of sale vis-a-vis that of your sales section as well. So I would say that we want to track this by lots, and would also go into a point where at the inventory section we can set the required date and all of that. Then another key element would be that we would require the product category, which I said is key in that sense. So we can break our various products into categories. So for our amoxicillin, we know these are antibiotics, and to effectively manage our pharmacy, I'm going to say we'll create an antibiotics, and the category is going to help us do quite a number of things. One would be the sort of strategy that we remove from our pharmacy. And in my earlier submission, I said first expiry date, first out, so that it tracks the ones that have the near expiry dates, and those ones have to leave our shelves in that order. And then we can also look at our costing method for our finance people. We would say maybe the first product that comes in would look at that in that costing. And then if you remember the automated accounting feature that I turned on, I'm asking the system to look at the costing method and then automatically affect our various accounts in terms of our accounts valuation, and then our various stock interim accounts, which would be once we buy the product and it's coming in, what sort of interim accounts do we put in. Then we also have our accounting properties that affects every product that we align to this particular category in that sense. So our income account will be product sales, but then you can decide that for all antibiotics you want to have a different income account for that, and then you want to have maybe a different expense account or cost of goods sold account for that as well, right? So I see the product category as a very, very important place. So you take that, it helps in your reporting, it helps in how you can, to a larger extent, automate your accounting. It also helps in how you're removing products from your shelves. And so this area is very critical to your operations. So I'm going to save this, and then we would proceed. Here, I might say that because this we sell in syrup, we can also look at category in terms of our unit of measure, which I mentioned. Odoo also has a very fantastic engine for this. So if our categories do not necessarily exist here, in terms of the volumes that we have, we could create them. So we see we have liters. We can then have milliliters, which would be reduced by a factor of 1,000 for the liters, and then we can do that. Because for our syrups, we can have different measurements, right? We can have maybe 100 ml, we can have a 50 ml, we can have 150 ml in that sense. So in gathering these units properly, we would be able to create the various categories for them as well. So in this case, I'm going to create my ML a bit quickly so that we can see that. See how the system is going to handle that as well, and then we'll pick that in that sense. So let me jump in like so. I'll go in, I would say my unit of measure category. I'm going to look for the category we want to add this to. In this case will be a volume. And here, the most important thing will be the reference unit measure. So that's what is going to inform the factor that we do this by. So I'll add one, and I'll say this is milliliter, and this is smaller than our reference category or unit of measure, and it's smaller by a factor of 1,000. So I'm just going to tell the system that. So each time I see the milliliter, I know that the default reference here would automatically reduce it by a factor of 1,000 as well, in that sense. Then we can also decide that we want to break this into 10 ml. You can name it which we will, so we can say maybe 10 ml. And if we're doing 10 ml in terms of our conversion, then we're also going to multiply that by the same factor that would reduce it by. So 10 ml was just to 1 liter. We would also have to reduce that by a factor of, I think, 10,000 to. So what that is going to do for us would be to divide our 10 ml by that particular 1,000. So this is going to give us a reduction by 10,000 in that sense. So here I'm also going to say, if we're looking at this, then this would be sorry. So okay, we just multiply by 10,000 because that's what's going to happen, so that we don't have to set quantities of 10. So I'll use 10 ml for most of my demonstrations. So let me just save this by that, and then we are good to go. So it'll happen so that we don't have to set quantities of 10. So I'll use 10 ml for most of my demonstrations. So let me just save this by that, and then we are good to go. So we'll have 10 ml, 1 ml is, I don't think my factor of 100. Is it correct? Okay, thank you. Just saying. Right. So So I just want to cross-check my calculation well. So, yeah. Okay. All right. So I would have that. Our volume, this, if I'm right, should be by a factor of 1,000 point maybe 0.01 or something. So I'll maintain this 0.01, which is okay. And our liters 1, so we have 10 milliliter will be 0.01 liters in a sense, and 0.01 if we multiply by a factor of 1,000, to give us 100. So yeah, all right. Okay. So now let's go back into product creation. There are a few things that I want to touch on there. So for instance, we can say this is measured in ml or is measured in 10 ml. So depending on what you have. I've also noticed that some people also have a conversion of putting ml here, and then they can then do their measurement in units as well. It really does change it, but the reason why I like the unit of measure is that it would then give you the accurate measurements per the particular product that you have. So this can also be a naming conversion where you put the volume as part of the name of the syrup, and then you can also still go ahead and have the unit of measure like so. And we can say that for this 10 ml, maybe we sell it for 50 cedis in that sense. And it's now going to add flat rate onto the 50 cedis, and we know that once we sell, we're going to get 52. I'm going to leave this blank because remember in our category we've told the system to monitor all of our costs, and based on that we can tell the total valuation of this. Another bit would be to also create different categories, just as we have here. Remember, this is solely for our accounting and logistics purposes, but then we can effectively have categories that are within our point of sale. And so I'm going to also create this. For antibiotics, you can have a nice image to compensate this as well. So let me see if I can quickly get an antibiotics image online, just image. That makes point of sale look nice and tidy. And I think I have something like this. Just open image and then we can save this image, so just save it. Yep. So now I can pull this up and say let's have some nice antibiotic image. Yeah, and keep it nice and tidy. I'll choose the blue just to be somewhere in sync with it. And we have our antibiotics, right? Now, for those who sell items that has to be weighed, you can also weigh with scale, check that enabled so that the system allows that. Now, for our purchases, Odoo is smart. It is going to keep our vendors and the quantity and the price we bought from as and when we do our purchases, and we'll quickly look into that. The place I want to touch on would be our inventory. Remember, we said we're going to track expiry dates. So whilst we're creating our product, we would need to tell the system that we're tracking expiry date. And we can have some default expiry dates as well if we're in, but this would just be a default if you do not provide the actual expiry date of the product to the system whilst you're receiving it in that sense. So we can say expiry date, how many days after receipt. We can decide that for this we're doing 90 days, and then it says how many days before the expiration date is best before date. We can say we want to peg this at 15 days, and then when do you expect to remove this before the expiry date? I can say I want it 20 days. And which alert date do you want to give? I want it to notify us 30 days to time that some products are also getting expired, so that the system can tell us that. So with this default on this product, the system is always going to track whilst we're receiving it, because we're tracking the lot that comes with it and the expiry date. It is able to look at all of these things for us. So we're going to track by lot. You can invoice goods before they're delivered, and then we can also do valuation by lot and serial number. That's because we're also doing our valuation. Now, if you have a unique barcode for this product, you can also put this barcode in here. And then if you have a unique reference number internally for example, the amoxicillin syrup, you can also put this in. So I can maybe say internally we do AB, and then our code for amoxicillin can be AMX, and then we can say maybe 005. So we can have quite a number of brands for the amoxicillin syrup as well, and then you can either quickly use the Odoo Studio to add additional fields if you want to track the brands, or if you just don't want to trouble your head with that, you can also append the brand name to the product as well in that sense. Or in your reference, you can have a unique reference that tells your staff what that particular brand is as well in that sense. So you can also have a few internal notes for internal staff to read on this particular product form, and we can add a picture of the product, which I'm quickly going to do as well, so that we have some perspective to this. So I'm going to say, give me amoxicillin and image, and I would choose a particular product as well. So let's get, okay, so this is 100 ml, and then we can open it in a new tab, save as. So here we can define okay. So quickly, I'm gonna, it's just been brought to my attention that I have to do some quick correction here. So this would not be 10. This factor of 100 brings us to 100 ml rather. And then the 1 unit comes here. And then what I have to do on our product will be to denote it by 100. And I can load the amoxicillin quickly so that we have an image of it. And then we can say this is 50 c's quickly. Another thing that is just come is why do we have the CD in front? So quickly that can be fixed. So we can go into the currency section of Odoo, and then we will look for Ghana CDs. And then once we look for Ghana CDs, we can tell the system. So we go into our debug mode of Odoo quickly, and then we can tell the system that our currency symbol should be before, not after, so that it corrects that. So here we're done. We go back into our inventory and products, and now our product is nicely set up. So we have, I'll just quickly recap. We have an image of the product. We are tracking by lots. We're also doing evaluation by serial numbers. We created a category called antibiotics, and in that category we set various logistics, and then we also did our inventory valuation method, and we've told the system to use this default inventory accounts for automating our valuation process. And then we've also given the system the income account and expense account. Now, another thing I have to point out is that we have this accounting feature here as well, where you see income and expense account, but your category actually supersedes what you put in here. So for best practice, I would always advise that you go with the category option, because that gives you quite a lot in terms of managing the products in that sense. We can also look at the sales bit. I'm going to leave that. This would be maybe for our wholesale section and what we would want on the sales orders and information that we would need on the sale order. Our focus more is on the POS, where we've also created another category called antibiotics, and this product falls under that. And then within our purchase, because we've done that automation, we would come back here to see if the system is actually keeping track of our vendors, the quantity we buy from them, and then the prices that they give us for the said product. And then when we got into our inventory, we said that we're buying this product because we do not manufacture it ourselves. We're tracking our expiry date, and we've given it some default parameters stating that once we receive this stock into our warehouse, it's got about 90 days to expire. This is just an estimate. It could be a year or two. Usually these drugs will last for a year or two, but I have just put in just the 90 days so that this can be demonstrated effectively. I know that my attention has been drawn to that, but it's just for us to quickly see how this goes. And then we use a best before date. So 15 days before expiry, that's our best before date. And removal date will be 20 days before expiry, and our let date will be 30 days before expiry, so that the system can alert us that we have some products that are just about to expire. With this being said, our product is right, and so we can quickly now jump into our process with actually running our pharmacy. Now, the first process would be that for a small pharmacy, before we can sell, we need to have stock. And so if we go into our inventory right about now, by default, I have one particular warehouse, which is CONAK Pharmacy. If you're a big pharmacy and you have multiple warehouses, you can create as many warehouses and locations that you so wish. But for the purposes of this webinar, I'm just restricting it to one warehouse called CONAK Pharmacy. And then I've also set up our various product categories and our unit of measure, so we actually good to go. The next bit will be to be sure that our pharmacy is actually linked to our warehouse, and I know it's linked because we just have one particular warehouse. But for those who will be setting up themselves, I would just want to quickly run through so that you know how you can align the warehouse. So you see that the operation type is CONAK Pharmacy, which is my warehouse name, and then it says POS orders, which is actually an inventory process that by default sits in Odoo. So if we look at all of our operational types, we should see that we have the POS order that defines where our products will be picked from, and then the sort of prefix that is given to each other in that sense. Right? Okay, so now with our basic setup, let's just go into our inventory, our flow, basically operational flow. The first bit will be that to make sure that we have zero stock. And so if we look at our inventory report, we'll notice that we have our product there, but we have zero quantity on hand, and as such we can sell. So we would need to go purchase this product and store it. And we know that by our naming conversion, I have a unique reference for this product that comes first before the product name itself comes in that sense. And then we can also tell our unit of measure, which says 100 ml here as well. So to start this, we need to raise our purchase. And per our purchase workflow, ideally we need to request for quotation from various vendors, get a cheaper price and all of that. My assumption is that we know the vendor we're dealing with, so I'm going to skip our request for quotation. But then, just to highlight this, Odoo can help you in terms of the selection. You will have alternates that you can compare the various feedback from your vendors with respect to their pricing and their delivery timelines, and can help you make an accurate decision as to who to choose to. That feature would also come in subsequent webinars, so just watch out for that. I'm going to jump straight into my purchase order, and I'm going to basically raise the purchase order. Now, for my vendor, I'll create a new vendor. For some companies, you have a certain vendor selection process that usually has to be custom, because you want to look at some of the statutory documentations that they have before you can create them as a vendor. But in this case, we'll just jump straight to my pharmacy vendor one. That's how I'm going to call the one. And Odoo also has this service that allows you to shortlist companies that probably you have not saved, but you can go global, get that, try and get their address, get their TIN number in terms of the tax identification number, and even their logo. But that is also a paid-for service. If you want that level of automation or AI integration, it can do that for you. Nonetheless, I love to create this manually, but you can subscribe to that service as well. This is a company, I would say they're located in Accra, the country is Ghana, and I'll leave it as so. I can also have other details, just to show how the power of Odoo would go. I'll put in my Gmail so that we can see the email that is sent to the vendor. Oh, sorry, got my Gmail wrong. At gmail.com. And then I'm going to add to 33. I'll leave it as so. Yeah, so we have it nice and tidy. And then on the contact form, you can also have other addresses within the same organization. So maybe the contact of the sales manager, contact of the director of the business, contact of say, anybody, and you can leave internal notes in that sense. Under the accounting section, we can have unique receivable or payable accounts that is tied to that particular contact that we're saving. And then we can have also the sales and purchase parameters. So who usually buys from this? This will be an officer within our pharmacy. What terms have been agreed on with this particular vendor? We can also have the terms. So in this case, I would say he gives us the drugs. He allows us to pay 15 days later. And then what mode of payment do we usually utilize in terms of paying this client? We can also set a default. I would say I usually pay by cash. And then we can also add the supplier currency as well. I would say this is Ghana CD. And you can have all of this details set up. Barcode for the point of sale. We can have a fiscal position. This also comes in handy when we want to also automate what sort of parameters to select, whether it's a tax, something, we can inform the system in terms of that automation. But just as I said, I'm going to keep it simple for today. We'll look at those details later on in subsequent webinars. I can have the expected arrival date, saying today, just for the purposes of this webinar. And then I can have a reference that's on that particular invoice. What product am I buying from this vendor? I'm going to buy a Moses Slim syrup, 100 ml. I would say I'm buying 50 of these. Let me say 5. Okay, 50. I'm using a lot number. I thought I was just doing serial numbers. And then for this 50, he sells it to us at 35 CDs. And so when we add that and calculate all of our VAT, we have this. I would now save this. And then we can send this by email. Now, the first stage that we have will be our RFQ, which is actually you requesting for the prices of these items, which the vendor needs to get back to you. So you can forward it by email from within Odoo. You don't have to get out of Odoo and send that email. You can just click send by email button, and the system is just going to give you a form where it has all of the details that has to send this. So it says, dear pharmacy vendor 1, here's an attachment for a request for quotation. And then it is also going to attach that request for quotation, which will have no pricing and expects that the vendor would have to get back to you with that price. A vendor can also look this up in terms of the online section of Odoo. So there's an online portal that is also part of this. A vendor is also going to accept it. They can collaborate or send questions, you can answer, and everything reflects on your dashboard in that manner. So I'm going to send this. I'll show you how this is going to work because I attached my Gmail to this. And once we see this, we can view the PDF that was sent from within Odoo. We do not necessarily would have to come out of Odoo to view it. We can see our PDF right within Odoo as well. So I'll pick this up. Quickly. Come on, let me quickly refresh my screen. I think it's taking forever. All right, great. So here. See, 50 ml. Let me download this and then just try and open it so that we can all see. So it comes like so, and there's no pricing, right? But once we confirm this and we basically confirm the purchase order, then the assumption is that our client would have gotten back to us to tell us that this is my price list, and then we'll do all of those vetting and sorting out and choosing the client that we want in that sense. I would confirm this order, and once I confirm this order, warehouse is also notified, or stores or whatever we want to call it is notified that we have some items coming in. On the purchase form, we would see whether we've received the items, whether the items have been billed in that sense. For the payment terms that we have on this particular vendor, we know that we do not necessarily have to pay now because we have a certain payment terms with them. But depending on maybe our business process, because in Ghana, some pharmacies or institutions will want to raise the bill, keep it, and before they accept. Some people would want to accept the items into stock. So you can have that sort of control policy on within Odoo on how you want to manage this. So you can set a control policy that says I would need to receive the items first before I can raise a bill or pay the vendor in that sense. The other would be, well, I don't have a problem, I can go ahead and raise a bill, pay the vendor before I receive the item. You have that kind of control policy based on the product form. So if we go into our product form, you would notice that I have invoicing policy for sales, which says ordered quantities. And then when I go into purchases, I also have a control policy, which I've set to ordered quantity. If I set it to receive quantity, then it actually literally means that I have to receive the items first in stock or to my warehouse before I can raise a bill, in that sense. Now, when we come back to our product form, I want us to look at the top. We had 0 on hand. Now we have forecasted of 50, and then it sees that we've raised the purchase order of for 50 as well. So it keeps track of all of this, and then we have the various lot and serial numbers that would accompany it. So this bar actually helps you of giving you forehand information on each of the products as well. So let me just jump quickly back into my purchase order. I'm going to create a bill. We'll come back and then see how it reflects here. I'll create this bill quickly. And so here we notice that the payment terms that was set on the client's form reflects here. It means this invoice will be due for payment in 15 days. We can give it the bill date so the system can also track. If we have a payment reference for this bill, we can give that as well, and then we can have the bill reference in that sense. Now, autocomplete will be select purchase order. There are instances where you can just create a bill straight away, but you would want to link it to a purchase order. The system can allow you to do so. And in terms of our automated accounting, you will notice that the system basically takes taxes and then the various stock accounts that we're dealing with, and then our accounts payable out of the box. And we'll briefly look at that if we have time. I'll go through the accounting sections a little bit as well. So I'm going to confirm this bill, but I'm not going to pay for it yet because we'll be paying for it in 15 days. Now, when we come back to our purchase order, we should see that 50 have been billed, but we have not received the stock yet. So let's go to our inventory and see what the system says there. Once we get into our inventory, it tells us that we have some items to receive. We can quickly jump into that, and we can look at the item that we have to receive. And it says we have 50 quantity of the amoxicillin syrup that we need to get for 100 liters, and then we can proceed to validating this. But there's another important thing. We see this little icon here. This icon has got to do with our lot number, right? So it's one asking us for the actual expiry date on the product, and if we ignore that, then it's going to use today's date as the receipt date. But we can go in here and say that our expiry date maybe gets us into December. Let me drag it for, I just want to be near it. So maybe we'll just say for 1 year, and we're going to make it on the 12th, which will be Friday. And I would set it to just 0. That particular day, end of day, should be okay for this. And I would just apply for that. And then I can give, because I use the lot number, I can just say lot 000 20 2025 something, and I can save this. Now, once I put this in, it's going to create the lot number, and then I can proceed to validating my particular stock for that. And so it has that, it goes into a database, we can trace it as well, and then we see the lot number that comes with it in that order. And we have 50 of 100 ml sitting in our warehouse or our store. And it creates a valuation for that, but we'll look into that. So now let's go into, first of all, start by the product so that I can point places that we can easily see this. So one would be that now we have 50 on hand. After accepting it, we have a forecast of 50, and the forecast would look at whether you have incoming or outgoing stock to determine what your forecast is. So sometimes you can have a forecast value that is low than quantity on hand. Why? You can have items that have been bought, but the customer has not picked it up, but the system has reserved that for the customer. So in actual sense, your forecast will be lower. Sometimes your forecast will also go higher than the quantity that you have on hand. And why? Because you would have raised the purchase order, so it knows that you have goods in transit that is coming in, just as we saw earlier. So we noticed that we had 0 quantity on hand, but then our forecast quantity was 50. Because the models are tightly integrated, it knows that you have raised the purchase order of 50, and that purchase is coming in, and as such, it can also do a forecast. So now, if we look at our information bar up here, we're going to see that we have a quantity of 50 on hand, we have a forecast of 50, we've not sold any of this, we've purchased 50, and we are tracking our in and out of this, so we have one in, and we can look at a lot number that is also associated with the product that we've received, and it tells us that lot number. In a case where you have a product that you want to drill by serial numbers, you can also indicate that is serial number. Now, once we look at our lot number, you would see that we have the expiry as to June 12, 2026, and then it says that the removal date, based on the parameters that we set on the product, by May 23rd, it should be removed from our shelves. So the system is keeping track of all of that. And we can schedule a specific activity on it as well. My next bit now will be to look at our reporting before we go and use our point of sale to sell. So we can go into our stock report now, and from our stock report section, we are seeing that we have our unit cost of 35. Excuse me. And so for the 50 quantity that we have on hand, we would have 1,750, which is our total value in a sense. If we had our landed cost and all of that done, then we can also reevaluate based on those parameters as well. And the system can also allow us to perform some revaluation with respect to the product. So we have all set up nice and sweet. Our major thing now would be to go into our POS, and then we can do some sales there and see how the system plays up. So I'm quickly going to activate my POS. Now also bear in mind, with Odoo, once the POS is activated, even when your internet cuts off, it can still run offline, and once your internet is connected back, it would send the information to the back end for it to reconcile in terms of transactions that have been done. So anytime you're loading the POS, it starts with the quantities and products that you would have in your particular warehouse, and based on that, it can do subtractions, or it knows quantities that are available, and when connection comes back up, you can send those transactions to the back end. Now, once we open our cash register, we're opening with 0. We do not have any change, but the system can allow you to do so. So for those that have cash register where you start your day by putting in some change into your cash box, you can indicate the number of notes that have gone in, and the system is also going to take this into consideration when you're closing your section at the end of the day. I'm going to leave this as 0 because I want to keep it very simple and straightforward, but I've just to notify you on that, you can actually do that within Odoo as well. So I would open the registered 0, and then you would see that we have our amoxicillin syrup, 100 ml syrup as well, and the category that I created for antibiotics, we also have that listed here. If we take that category off, we'll have a gift card and a top-up wallet where customers can top up their wallets, because Odoo can give you some e-wallet, and so it could also be linked to the sort of promotions that you do with. From a business standpoint, it looks like it gives you some liquidity before the service is utilized. So you can also sell this within your pharmacy, where you get membership cards and you allow your customers to put in some value onto their e-wallet card, and each time they purchase from you, they can get a particular discount as well. And then you can also sell gift cards. People would have to buy certain things like groceries, Most of the pharmacies these days will have a grocery part attached to it. You can use that to increase the footfalls that come into your shop as well. Now we're going to do a straight sale. We can have this first product. So we see that we have our Mensah Slim syrup. If we had a unique serial number, the system can tell us the various serial numbers to choose. I intentionally did this strictly by lot, because for most of the products that are produced here in Ghana, you see most of them having batch numbers or lot numbers. So in this case, I had to narrow it down. But if you have very unique serial numbers on each of the products, then you can also consider tracking by serial numbers. Now, whilst we're selling, we can also capture customer data. So we have the option of capturing customer data in that sense. So I can capture this customer by so, and then create a new customer. And this new customer can be called Bernard Mensah. And I can capture details, ACCRA and Ghana. And I can have details of the mobile number, as well, which helps, and I can save that. And I can move to payment. And in a case of this payment, remember we had cash, card, and customer accounts when we're doing our POS setup, and that's where we see all of this payment medium. I also stated that you can have, and this gives you manual if you've not been integrated into any of the card system that connects here. You can record the card payments, and then also maybe have a unique transactional ID from your POS that relates to it as well. And for cash, you can also accept that. We can integrate Momo, but that after this webinar, if you're interested, you can reach out to CONAK, and we're very glad to assist you on that. Now we're paying with cash because in our system, cash is king. The few things that I want to, because the question then becomes, okay, what if the person doesn't give you 52 cedis? So we can still have a change. So if I take cash, I can say the person gave me 100 cedis, and I have to give a change of 48 cedis. The system tracks that as well, and that can be provided. In this case, because I did not put any change or sort in my cash register, I'm just going to go straight and say, okay, the person luckily had 52 cedis on them, and they can pay for this. And I can go ahead and validate, and immediately I validate, the system is going to print out the receipt for us, and you see the header, CONAK Pharmacy, Lagos Avenue is Legon, and then we said, thank you for shopping with us. It has powered by Odoo at the bottom part, and then we can have the order number that comes in. So we see that we bought the Mensah syrup 52, 100 ml, and all of that, and the taxes are also included. This is popping up as a PDF because I don't have a printer, but you can tell that you can print this on your thermal printer, whether it's doing, I don't know, 70 mm or 90 mm, you can have printers that can deal with this. So in that case, we have that. Let's just be sure that this is working. We can delve into other information. So you see that you have a hand quantity of 49, so you can always tell the quantity that you have. And then once you sell, it deducts from it as well. And our replenishment, or touch on that briefly, where you can have the system do some auto replenishment trigger so that you do not run out of stock all the time. And it gives you the price, which excludes taxes, the cost margin, and then tells you the cost and gives you the margin that comes in as part of this. So I'll do two sales. First one, I picked a customer that I know. The customer is not comfortable with taking the name. No worries, you can still do the same thing. We can pay with cash, and then you can indicate that this customer actually wants an invoice. And I just want to distinguish between the two. You might have customers that would require or tell you that they want an invoice, especially for retailers that you're required to print invoice per the requirement of the Ghana Revenue Authority. You can still use the POS and still gather invoices from the POS section as well in version 18 of Odoo. So we'll validate this. Because we're selecting the invoice, it says that we would need to have a customer so that we can put the invoice name on. Sorry about that skip. So here I'm going to say this is Francis, and he lives in Accra, Ghana. And we can also capture the relevant details as mobile number, and then we can have that set up correctly and save. And so once we save, we can proceed, and it is going to create that for us. We print the invoice, and we also notice that the invoice was quickly downloaded. So you see that the invoice name is Francis, that he bought this drug, 100 ml, and then we have all of this done. And the due amount, because he paid cash, is 0. And you also have the till receipt that is also printed for you as well, right? So with this, we've come to the end of our day for selling. We would need to close. You can have an admin do this, but because I am a one-man show, started a new CONAK pharmacy, I want to close. I can view all of the orders that were paid for today, and I can tell the customers that actually did this. So order 101, 102, and the next one I was waiting for is 103. And then I can go ahead as an admin, I can create products from even the POS. I can go to the back end, I can clear my cache, because sometimes if your cache is too heavy on your browser, it can also impact the performance as well. And I can also have a debug window as admin. I can take cash out, especially if I'm operating a business where maybe I would need to take cash out of my cash drawer, buy electricity, or go buy lunch, or buy some sandwich. The system can allow me to do so, and it can be accounted for at the point of closure. So now the day is ended, I want to close my cash register. I would come back, and then the system tells me that you have 104. We've not counted our cash yet, so we see the cash payments that it detected came in is 104, but it needs us to count the cash and be sure that we have that exact amount in. We did not have any card payments, we had no payments from our customer accounts, so I'm going to say that I counted this and I had 104. And once I do that, there's no cash difference. I can put in my closing notes. If I have cashiers that are basically utilizing the system, they can print out their daily sales. If by chance they had taken any change to buy a sandwich or something, at closure they can also put that cash back in, right? So now I can go in and close my cash register. And we can quickly just go to the back end. And once I get to the back end, we see that we have a balance of 104 that is sitting in our cash register that's not left yet. Now, this money can be sent to the bank by doing some liquidity transfer, and then we can do a cash out and reconcile that later. But I would also save that for the next series. I think we just have some few more minutes left for this. If we go to our back end, we can see all of our orders, and then we can tell the ones that were actually invoiced in that sense, because we printed an invoice for Francis, and for Bernard, we still just gave him a ticket. And for customers that you probably would not want to take their names, you can still sell. But I usually encourage that because the data is also helpful. You can still use your Odoo marketing tools to reach out to these customers when you have a new product or you have a promotion. So trying to gather customer data is also helpful for your business. We can look at the various sessions in that sense. So we had one session is going to give us details as to the orders, tool pickings, the payment we've done, and all of the registry and the cash register, what we have in. All of those details are captured quite well in Odoo. So we can view this. We know, excuse me, this is cash that we've collected. And I'll show you how this actually syncs directly into our accounting as well. So if I go back, then we have details on our 2 orders that was done. We can see those 2 orders as well. And if we go back to a session, we can also see the 2 pickings that was done from our store in that sense. And if we go into our inventory, just to be right, because we did this all out of our POS, are we sure that we have seen any operations in that sense? We can look at our deliveries quickly, and voila, there we go. We have POS 001 and then the contact name that was given to, and we know the pharmacy branch that it came from, branch 1, and the order 2 in that sense. We can also do returns from this, and we can run our inventory adjustments, but that will be for part 2 of our webinar when we meet on this pharmacy series next week. We'll look at inventory adjustment, we'll look at how we can scrap, we'll look at how we can do reordering rules as part of next week's section. Then our inventory reporting as well, we can delve deep into it. We have 48 on hand. We can also look at our moves history. That gives us a detail of where these products have moved from. So we see the lot number, and then we see the quantities that has been moved, and then we know how much we received for this particular lot, which was 50, and a total of 2 has been sold as well. Then once we jump into our accounting, we should see that our cash values have gone up by 104 because we have received those payments. I think in a 3rd edition of this, we'll take a critical look at our accounting bit, and then you realize that the purchase of the drug that we undertook, which we have 1,820 to pay, is actually telling us that it will be due on the 22nd to the 28th of June, by which time we would have sold quite a number of the medication, and then we can utilize that to pay as well. And for pending customer invoices, we don't have that because all our invoices have been paid. But just to show you the invoice that we generated for Francis, you would notice that is within the system and it's been fully paid as well. So, we have looked at how we can look at our serial numbers. We've looked at our inventory management. We've looked at our payment methods. We've looked at how serial number actually works. We've seen reporting in terms of looking at our stock levels and tracking our lot numbers in terms of our traceability report. In that sense, I think the other part that we had, which I didn't touch on in terms of our reporting, would be our dashboard, which I'm also going to show you quickly, and then the system, how it's actually deducting the valuation and telling us the value that is also left as well. So I'll go into a dashboard, and that will bring us to the end of our webinar section for today, so that I can take a quick 5 minutes to do a Q&A, and we can quickly move from there. So if I take a look at the dashboard, would not be ready because for today we've not captured a lot, but then what we'll look at would see that we've generated some income, we've received some amount of money, which is 104, and it's given us all of these indicators. But over the period, as we go through the series, and the day would go by, we're looking at that period, we're going to look at the performance of the products that we have. So in next week's session, by the time we get in, I would have created some additional products. It was on purpose to just create one so that we can all follow through. And next week, we're going to up this a bit by adding probably 4 more products, and then we can tell performance in terms of our products. But for the business owners, would see the effectiveness of the dashboard and how it can just quickly give us an overview of that, so we can see that we have some invoices that have been paid in terms of the value, and that was an invoice that we generated from the POS for Francis. Okay, folks, I think that brings me up to the end of webinar section for today. Thanks a lot for joining in. Our next step would be our Q&A section. So I would have Francis monitor that, and then we would answer your questions in that sense. Thanks very much for having me this morning. I'll be on standby for Q&A. All right, thank you very much for today's section. Hope to see you next week as we continue with our pharmacy series and how you can set this up in Odoo. You can still leave all of your questions and comments in various channels, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook, all at CONAK Technology. Thank you and have a wonderful day.